And the only truth that we can talk about is a logically ascertained premise. So that is why all those people, the great scholars, write books entitled My Search for Truth, what they have found. But the truth is something flowing, moving. See, that movement cannot be captured. Even for me, what I consider to be true and valid in a particular frame is not true and valid anymore. So that's one of the reasons why I am discouraging lately after having done so much mischief by allowing those books to be published.
But it's fun doing mischief, isn't it? At least it stirs
There's
the
not
air.
much that I can do to undo the mischief, you see.
Actually, what you could do is sort of let people think, change the dates on them, and let people think the second one came out first, because just on a rational
It is
basis.
very strange that some people like the second one rather than the first one. This you will be surprised. That's the one that has been
Actually, I thought you were more direct, or they picked you out as getting more direct.
you that has been reviewed by many people. The second one. And
I thought that the second book was kindergarten and the other one was high school. The second book seemed to me to be probably something that you had gone through.
I tell you why some people like the first book. I think you are all very familiar with it. You mentioned in your note that familiar with Krishnamurti's teachings. And I happened to be in the same place when whatever happened to me happened. And naturally, all those people who are attending Krishnamurti's talks became very curious. Practically everybody that attended out of 1,000 students, except those who were committed, committed the Krishnamurtis. One day or the other they came to see me. So they threw all those phrases at me. I was very familiar with Krishnamurti's language. I knew him more than anybody else because he was part of my background. I grew up in the same atmosphere, same environment. Our teachers happened to be the same. And I was very much involved with the Theosophical movement. I lived there in India for almost 21 years. And got involved with the organization, became secretary, national lecturer, international lecturer, and so on. So Krishnamurti was part of my background. That was a monkey on my back, and I had great difficulty to push that off my back, if I may put it that way. And so when those people threw all those phrases at me, I had to emphasize and overemphasize that whatever I stumbled into was something totally different. It was not psychological, but I had to express it in pure and simple physiological terms. So I overdid it, if I may say so. And people who read that can easily simulate those experiences and believe that they are getting somewhere. So experience all those things. That's very simple. You can experience whatever you want to experience. So to that extent, you see, it is not of great interest for people to read that book. You see, it is very misleading in some respects. And once you understand, if I may use that word, any word we use, we have problems with the words, and that there is nothing there to be changed. It really doesn't matter whether it is physiological or psychological. And we are not so sure because we have been made to believe that there is something there which we have to do everything possible to bring about the change. That we all think rests on that fundamental acceptance of ours, that there is something there which we have to bring about, in which there a change has to take place, radical or otherwise. And when once you discover that there is no mind So all the talk of radical mutation of mind has no meaning, doesn't make any sense at all.
By mind, you don't mean brain. I mean, obviously, normally if you're talking psychological, you're talking about the movement of the brain, which of course is physical.
You see, all right, you see, is on thought and look at thought. See, what is there is about thought. You see, what you look at is about thought. The illusion that we have that there is a thought separate from the functioning of this living organism is that thought is sound. Let me give you the example that when you make an international call to India or the United States, see all these calls go over the satellite. So when you say something a few seconds after, you listen to your own voice. You really don't know whether you see the other person is talking or you are listening to your own voice. There is a time lag between what is, if you say hello, a few seconds afterwards, you hear your own voice before the answer.
Yes.
So in exactly the same way, what is thought after all? It is a sound. And all feelings are thoughts or sounds. Unless you tell yourself that you are happy, you have
You're
no.
saying thought, you're using thought in the term of perception. You see, I see thought as a process of the brain.
There is no way you can separate yourself from thought.
No, you are the thinker, you are the thought.
No, there is no thinking also. You see, I question even the consciousness itself. So there is no such thing as consciousness at all. And the moment you become conscious of things, you can say that you are conscious of a thing. And what is it that makes you conscious of things? The knowledge you have. When I use the word knowledge, I am not using that word in any mystical or mysterious sense. The knowledge is the head. So it is not possible for us to experience anything that we do not know. I would go one step further and say that what you do not know, what you cannot experience, does not exist. So it is the knowledge we have of the things that separates us. And then through the help of that knowledge, we experience things. So there comes a time when you realize that there is no such thing as a new experience. I don't want to give a talk. You see. So going back to the thought is a response to the stimulus. You see. And so it is, what is it that separates you from the things around you and the things that are happening there inside you? So it is the knowledge which is symbolized by thought that separates you and tells you that you are happy, not happy, that you are bored, that you are not enlightened, that you are not free, or that this is white, this is not black, this is hard, this is soft. So there is no way you can experience anything without the help of the knowledge we have. So what is it that separates us from the things that are there around us and the things that are happening? See, I have to put it that way because there is no inside and outside. It is one unitary movement. The stimulus and response is one unitary movement. So what separates this response to the stimulus is the knowledge we have, and that is what we call thought. You see, let me give an example. This red light is blinking here. So when you sit here, the one thing that demands total attention or the focusing of the eye is the blinking of this red dot here. So the sensory perceptions do not say that that is red. What is there, this movement has created a movement here, which is the response to that. I am explaining it in physiological terms. It activates the optic nerves and throws an image. Even this fact that we don't even know it's a fact, that's what we are taught by the physiologists, and it will take us into the laboratory and tell us this is and out and this is the response to that. But that's it. We need that knowledge to experience what I am trying to express. So when once, you see, this activates the optic nerves and throws an image, and in this process, the neurons that are there in the brain are also activated. So you will be surprised that the memory is very slow. It's not as fast as we imagine it to be. It takes time before it captures this and says that it is right, or that it is a tape recorder, that this is a table. The sensory perceptions are so fast that there is no time for this memory to capture and say that it is, you see, red, that this is white, that it is red. And so this stimulus and response is one unitary movement. There is no way you can separate it and tell yourself that that is red. So there is no such thing as total attention on our part. You cannot be really totally attentive of anything, and it is that is demanding the total attention in this frame. And the next frame is, you see, is moving his fingers there. So it has moved from there, so it has become irrelevant. So before I recognize that this is red, it has moved there and he is moving, and that white cap is moving, you are moving your head. So this camera happens to be, and you all happen to be here. And so it is moving from one thing to the other. There is no time for the neurons to be activated and you translate what is going on and say that, you see, you are nodding your head, that this is black, this is blue, and this is white. At no time is and once the continuity of the knowledge we have of the things around us and the things that are happening there inside of us comes to an end. You see, there is no way after that you can link up together and maintain the continuity of philosophies. And so that was my basic question. Although I did psychology, I met even Jung. And so my question was, I have studied the 6 schools now, which is a tremendously complex and complicated thing. It has become different schools of psychology and all. And so my basic question from the very beginning was this: I don't see any mind. This was my problem with Krishnamurti also. So I met him 40 days, like 40, almost towards the end of my breakup with him. And so I don't have any thoughts of my own, which I can call. I really don't have any thoughts of my own. And how come you have thoughts of your own? So the thoughts belong to us all. That's the common problem. I don't want to use the Jungian phrase collective consciousness or any such thing. So it is that has created you and me. But the sole main purpose of maintaining its continuity, its status. So without the use of that knowledge, you have no way of creating your body and experiencing the existence of this body separate from the things around. So we have to use that for purposes of functioning sanely and intelligently in this world, otherwise we will end up in the gloomy beings, in the gloomy tunes, in the humanities. So we have to accept the reality of the world as it is imposed on us, otherwise we cannot function in this world. Apart from that, there is no way you can experience the reality of anything else. So for all practical purposes, reality does not exist, let alone the ultimate reality we are interested in. So you and I, through the use of knowledge, which is the common property of us, experience things. When that is not there, there is no way of looking at things. You see, is there any way I look at the things other than the way you are looking at things? My answer is no. You and I, in the knowledge is in operation, looking at things exactly the same way. But imagine that you see a man who is free from all this, who functions in God knows what state you think he is in, looks at things, experiences things, he has no way of experiencing anything, and if he experiences anything, he experiences things in exactly the way you and everybody experiences things. So because, yes, but that is, don't talk of the reality or experiencing the reality of anything. So if you accept the dream as a real living, then it is But now the latest theories tell us that the dreams are nothing but this kind of an entertainment for us. We entertain ourselves just by looking at it.
But our lives are entertainment, aren't they? Let's face
If we
it.
accept that fact as a fact, it becomes very simple. There won't be any problems.
Too much suffering for that.
So, but we don't realize that all of our suffering is caused by the value system that is created for us in culture, whether it is Oriental culture or Occidental culture. But I'm not for a moment suggesting that you should destroy the value system. There is no way you can destroy that, because you are the product of that. What you call you is the value system. So there is no way you can separate yourself from the value system and talk as if you can free yourself from the value system. So as I always emphasize, somewhere along the line, this self-consciousness occurred in the human species. That was the day the tragedy of man's suffering started. So why? I don't know. I'm not competent.
Is it a tragedy?
That
It's
is a
just a
tragedy.
movement, isn't it?
It is not a movement. It is not a movement. That separateness from the totality of things created this problem for man to believe that the whole thing is created for his benefit, and that he is far superior.
That's illusion, I think.
It's not an illusion for those people who are out to destroy everything. They may talk of, see, the planet is in danger. The planet is not concerned about it. The planet is not concerned about the human species as a very important species on this planet. And human species is expendable.
We're a virus.
Huh?
We're a virus.
Virus.
The organism of the
But-
planet, we're a virus.
True, if we accept that fact, that any teacher who comes to save man from that disaster that is facing us is prolonging the agony, but not helping us to solve the problems. So unfortunately, what happened to us, see, was and still is that we have created the model of a perfect being and placed before humanity as the ultimate goal of mankind. But nature is not interested in a perfect being. It has already created perfect species. Probably it is creating a better species than the present lot here on this
It made a mess of
planet.
this species.
We really don't know. We do not give a chance for nature to create better species than the species we have on this planet, because with the help of thought, it has become possible for us, you see, to prolong our lives, to see that we are not destroyed. How long we will continue to do that way is anybody's guess. I don't want to talk. So my problem was, as I say, even as a young boy, this occurred to me. I lived in the midst of all these people. And they see, is there anything I want other than what they wanted me to do? You know, is there anything I want to think other than what those people wanted me to think? This was really my problem.
Who did you perceive that I as?
Huh?
Who did you perceive the I
I realized that I was nothing but a first person singular pronoun even then, because I didn't see any I there, I didn't see any entity there. But I accepted that. I was forced by the conditions in which I was thrown in.
But what was it that was doing the wondering? That's
Huh?
my question. What was it that was doing
There was no way I could find out for myself and by myself how to be free from these wants that they are bombarding me with.
But who was myself?
Now that is there is no myself. This very movement that is trying, see there. Then there comes a time when you are wanting to be free from those wants also is a want. It will drive you crazy. You have to go through that inevitable stage of going crazy, and if you are lucky, you will fly. Otherwise, if you go on and on and on and on with it, if you are determined to find out an answer, then nobody in this world in whom you have tremendous faith, invested tremendous faith, and believe that that teacher can give you a helping hand, is not there anymore. You will be surprised. You will be surprised that there is nothing that you can do. Not a thing. So this is something which cannot be brought about through any volition or any effort of yours or the help of anybody. What stood in the way of my pushing myself to that edge was this, you see. When once you have placed your confidence and you believe that teacher to be in possession of it, that stands in the way of questioning the integrity of the man. I don't question the integrity or the honesty of the people. Now I am certain, without a shadow of doubt, that all the teachers from the time immemorial con themselves and con the self of a great deal. So anything that happened before, all the events, let me put it as events, every event is an independent event. We would like to link up all these events and create a story. Or interpret every event as of the cause of things that resulted in that. So we either interpret that and create a philosophical structure of every event, describe it as a cause and effect relationship. Or tell the story because of what he did, what he did not do. Whatever happened to him has happened. So I am telling you, assuming for a moment this is the event which I talked about today. Happened, occurred, whatever word you want. Everything that happened, every event before that is irrelevant. So a biographer is interested in putting all these events together and create a story, which is false. Alright, even all autobiographies are false, worse than a biography. Because we are talking of the events from this point, which is impossible to fix. So you want to look back and tell about those events. So story is not your story. It could be anybody's story. So biography is the most false thing that anybody can write about anybody, and autobiography is the worst.
But people are bored with their own lives, so they like to sort of get a bit of
There is money in that wine.
somebody
There
else.
is money in that wine.
I just think that there was one big event. You speak of a chain of events, but there's one big
Listen, that event,
That one big event.
that all right, you see, I called it calamity. Let me explain to you. Probably it is explained somewhere else. You expect to be in a blissful state, you see. Immensity, bliss, compassion, eternal happiness, all kinds of things, all the descriptions of that state. And it may not be the same, probably. I don't care what they experience, why they describe in that state. What I am struck with is all this pains, this misery. There is no bliss, no beatitude, no immensity, nothing there. There is no way I can tell anything about myself. What I am left with is the pain. The pain is not the pain which you experience, in the sense that something hits you. It's like a lightning or an earthquake. Why? It is not because I deserve it. You don't deserve it. It's a random thing that happens. And frankly speaking, let me put it this way, that this is a biological freak. The society has no use for it. The culture has no use for it. The human species has no use for it. You want to fit this into your value system. It has a value for you. To me, it has no value because I cannot set up a holy business and thrive on the gullibility and credibility. Selling this, you see, hope to the people, it is too absurd for me. So it has no social content, it has no value for the society. So you are always thinking of this event as an event of some value to help you to function differently. It has no value at all.
But you have planted a seed in consciousness as a whole. The very happening has planted a seed of
You
your idea.
and I are functioning in exactly the same. You have to take my word. If you don't, it is fine with you. The thought that I am different from you never enters me. There is no way I can tell myself, Eugene, which is not there anymore. What is there, I have no way of telling myself that I am a free man, that I am an enlightened man, that something extraordinary has happened in me. There is no way I can fix a point and tell myself that I am this. What has happened, I really don't know. One thing is, I can say with certainty, there is nothing there to be free from. Even the very demand to be free is not there. Even the physical demands, I don't give a chance for this body even to feel the hunger at regular intervals. You will be surprised what I eat. You see. You know, what I eat is something horrible. And it's not that food, not nutritious food I eat day after day. Something to give energy for this body. Why should this body have energy? Otherwise I cannot go to the toilet. It's like an animal there. It's alright with me. But functioning as we do, living as we do, in a society like this, you have to observe certain decencies, certain elementary things. Otherwise, you have no way of telling yourself what is it that is going on there. It doesn't exist for you if you be surprised. You know. So this is not what you wanted, what I wanted anyway. So from that point of view, I would say that it is a calamity, not because you expected that you would be in a blissful state of immensity, eternal happiness, eternal bliss and all that. And I don't say anything here, nothing is there. There is no way I can say to myself that this is it. So in that sense, I'll use the word calamity, and also the natural state is an answer to the person who was insisting for enlightenment. I'm not trying to be very proper. I'm using this word natural state to describe my state at all. It's the natural, what you are left with is the way this living organism is functioning.
But you are functioning differently.
No.
The calamity
You
is really...
think that I am different. That's your problem.
No, I don't. I'm not sure. I come here to find out.
Yes,
You might be a fake, you might be a charlatan. I don't know. I come here.
By all means, go with that idea that I am a charlatan or that I am a fake.
No, you.
Why not? Why not?
The calamity is that he sees that it's got to be a transforming experience.
Yes, it is not.
It doesn't have to be. That is the calamity.
You become an ordinary, very ordinary man, function. That is why this lady here.
You think I'm not a mock-up of all this bliss. You see, I'm not into religion and spirituality, and I just touched on JK for a few years. So I know
That was
what
worse.
nonsense.
That was worse. No, I'm not
I'm not
saying
into that nonsense at all. I'm not religious or spiritual.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I just know
No, you were wanting to be happy.
I'm wanting to be free of thought.
Free of what?
Thought. I know I need thought.
The most ridiculous thing that you can
It's the
ask.
ultimate thought.
Wanting to be free from. Why you want to be free from thought? I'd like to know.
Well, look, I cannot see, I cannot touch, I cannot feel, I cannot taste.
How can you ask for that situation to be free from something which you cannot ask, which you cannot touch, which you cannot experience, which you cannot even feel? How can you want that thing to be free from something which you do not know, which you cannot touch? What is there is only about thought but not thought.
Alright, but the thing is that, look, I'm travelling at the moment and got lovely scenic beauty, and I look at the mountain. But I don't see it. I mean, all the time, chatter, I'm here.
Exactly.
So that is the thought I don't want. I want thought to say to me, that's a beautiful mountain, and shut up and let me have that mountain.
No.
That's what I want.
Why do you want to look at the mountain?
Well, because I find it does something to me.
What it does to your physical, you don't leave that sensation as a sensation. You have already captured that within the frame of your thought, and yet you want to be free from thought.
You're trying to use it. You're trying to use the sensation.
Sorry, I don't know. No, you must add that you recognize that as
Thought got me there. Thought helped me to see that it was what it was. And then don't let it just leave me alone and go away and let me just.
It is leaving you alone. You are the one that is getting involved with.
I'm getting involved.
It is living there of its own, but you are not separate from that. By wanting to look at it, you have created the problem for yourself, separated yourself from that. And when you want to be one. See, whatever is,
Absolutely.
you see what I am saying is, there is no question of bringing about any integration. What is it that is separating? What is it that is separating from the chair on which you are sitting? It is a thought. So how can you ask for something which will destroy everything that you are interested in? All this timeless thing, all this thoughtless state is invented by thought, pursuing what it calls to be in a thoughtless state. It is absurd to ask for the ending of thought because that will end everything.
I don't want to end thought. I just want to stop the chattering.
But there is no chattering there. You become conscious. You see, you don't know that you are breathing, are you?
I'm aware of it now.
No, you see. No, only when you think about it, you become conscious or aware of your breathing. It is going on in its own way.
Yes, but
Why do you want?
isn't sort of disturbing of
Breathing is not, you will be, come on, breathing is, that's all that is there. They pulse the beat and throb of life. You can't stop that. All these yogis can do whatever they want and feel good. They do good aside. And by controlling breath, see, if you hold that breath for long, you will be choked to death in exactly the same way. If you try to control thought, stop thought for whatever reason, it will just kill you. You will not be there without thought anymore.
But you yourself, you are saying that thought is causing this chain. It's never ending.
The thought is not there at all.
Thought doesn't.
Thought comes into being. There is no thought there. Thought is not there. That's all that I am saying. The brain is not a creator. You will be surprised. It doesn't create anything. It's only a container. So it is an idiot. The brain's functioning is only to help to this body to function smoothly. It is not interested in anything else. Anything that is happening there is a disturbance to the chemistry of the body.